I'm Christy, and today we're going to sketch, watercolor, and add some nature study notes to a Blue Morpho butterfly, one of the most vibrant butterflies of the tropical rainforest. Let's start. Similar to the monstera leaf we painted in our first episode of the tropical edition in this art and nature study series, we're going to take the frustration out of drawing for now by tracing the shape of this butterfly directly into our watercolor journal using transfer paper. So I've included a downloadable PDF of this same outline along with some nature notes that you can add to your journal piece at the end of the drawing and of the painting. Once your outline is transferred, we're going to lightly erase the harsher pencil lines using a kneadable eraser so that we're left with a soft guide to follow without the heavy outlines. I didn't follow the outline exactly, and so I'm going to just slightly refine the tips of the wings. Blue Morpho butterflies have small yellow spots surrounded by black along the edges of their wings. To make that easier later, I'm lightly sketching some scalloped edges and placing small circles where those yellow spots will be. Remember, this isn't about perfection, it's just the suggestion of these details to help bring the morpho to life. And once that's done, we'll switch to our watercolor palette. I have a small jar of water and a paper towel nearby, and today we're going to use a slightly different technique than we've used with the monstera leaf from before. This technique is called wet on wet. So first, we're going to apply clean water to the area where we want the watercolor to spread. And then we introduce pigment and allow it to move naturally within that space. As I often do, I'll begin with the background. Carefully apply clean water only where you want the pigment to reach, being mindful to avoid wetting the butterfly itself so that we can keep those edges crisp and defined. Since this is a Blue Morpho, I'm choosing a blue sky background. I'm selecting a shade of blue that differs from the blue that I'll be using for the butterfly though. So I'm going to use like a lighter sky blue for the background and later a deeper cerulean blue for the wings. If you have fewer color options, you could also paint the background green to reflect the rainforest environment where these butterflies naturally live. When I begin adding pigment, I place small amounts along the edges of the wet areas and allow the color to spread outward naturally. Try not to disturb the gradients that form. If you need to add more color, introduce it at the edges and let the water carry it across the surface. And now for the fun part, painting the wings. We'll work one wing section at a time, allowing each area to dry before moving on to the next section. I'm starting with the top right wing, and first what we're going to do, of course, is apply clean water carefully within the boundaries of that section. And then I'm going to introduce cerulean blue pigment along the inner edge. I gently tilt my journal to allow gravity to help move the pigment outward, encouraging a soft gradient. If you'd like a deeper color, add slightly more pigment near the inner edge and then allow it to flow naturally. I also like to add a small amount of pigment near the outer edge of the wing to help define the boundary where the darker wing edge will eventually be. Allow this to dry fully before continuing. Avoid blotting as it will disrupt the natural watercolor effect that you've created. And if you have a heat tool, let's say, use it very gently, but avoid blow dryers as that force of the wind can really push the pigment unnaturally. Once dry, we'll move to the opposite wing section and repeat the same process, laying in clean water first, then introducing pigment at the inner edge and allowing it to spread outward. To give those areas time to dry, let's begin detailing the outer edges of the wings. I'm starting with the yellow spots using a dark ochre yellow. Don't worry if the shapes aren't perfect. Once we add the darker pigment around them, they'll settle naturally into their place. Next, I define the scalloped edges of the wings using like a blue-black pigment. You can begin with a softer gray and begin and deepen it gradually if you prefer. Now, we'll continue painting the remaining wing sections using the same wet on wet technique, clean water first, then pigment, and then allowing the watercolor to create the natural gradients. Once all the wing sections are dry, I like to refine the edges slightly using a brush with very little water and a bit more pigment than usual. This allows for greater control and sharper definition. Next, we'll add the dark pigment surrounding the yellow spots and define the butterfly's abdomen. If you look closely, you may still see your pencil lines indicating where the wing veins are. You can leave them as they are, or we can gently define them with watercolor using a fine brush and a very steady hand. It's perfectly fine though if the lines vary in thickness. In nature, nothing is perfect or uniform, and those subtle variations bring realism and life to your piece. Don't hesitate to rotate your journal to find the most comfortable angle for your hand. You can also add a few smaller branching veins for added realism. And we'll define the abdomen and head a little bit further as well here. At this point, you could continue refining and layering, but I'm going to shift into labeling and adding nature notes. If you downloaded the outline with the nature notes, you'll find simple facts included on the second page. This is where we transform our artwork into a nature journal entry. I'll begin by lightly penciling the name Blue Morpho butterfly and then tracing over it in a Sharpie pen or marker. I just realized though that I forgot to go over the antennas of the butterfly. Oops, no worries. I'm going to go ahead and use this black Sharpie to define those before I continue with the nature notes. Don't hesitate to write directly on your artwork. Nature journals are meant to be useful and informative, like your own personal field guide. So just choose one or two facts to include, Write your own observations too from today's painting if you like. And there you have it, your Blue Morpho Butterfly Nature Study Journal page. If you'd like, you can download the free outline and nature notes below. I'll be sharing more tropical watercolor journaling prompts each week, so feel free to subscribe if you'd like to continue building your nature journal with me. I'll see you in the next one.